Commission. Before us today is the Public Works Department of the City of Boston.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have, as Chair Craven relayed, the Public Works Department, who's before us today with one vote request. The vote request is being presented by Para Jossinger. He's a city engineer with the Public Works Department, and also Brian Valancourt. He's a manager with the Planning and Permitting Department for AECom. This is an order of taking for temporary construction easements located at the following addresses: 226 to 234 Causeway Street, known as Temporary Construction Easement 2, 160 North Washington Street, known as Temporary Construction Easement 3 and Temporary Construction Easement 4. 44 Charles River Avenue, also known as Temporary Construction Easement 8, and 1 Chelsea Street, known as Temporary Construction Easement 10, 11, and 13. This concerns the Public Works Department's North Washington Street Bridge Replacement Project. Each one of these temporary construction easements is necessary for this project to move forward. The total compensation would be $326,600 if this vote is approved. Further detailed in this memo is the exact meets and bounds and the measurements concerning each of these temporary construction easements. I'm going to ask Para to begin with a presentation of the vote request for the Public Works Department, and then Para will be able to turn that over to Brian Valancourt, who will be able to give us further details about each of the easements, and there are slides and a short video presentation. Para, if you would begin.
Wait just 1 second. Before you begin, Para, I just wanted to put on the record the rationale for why we're seeing this at the Public Facilities Commission, because of our statutory requirements to grant any easements in this matter.
That's correct, Chair Craven. The Public Facilities Commission has a unique authority within the City of Boston, and that authority specifically comes under Chapter 642 of the Acts of 1966. Further detailed in this vote request is Section 3 and the specific provisions within Section 3 that solely allows the Public Facilities Commission on behalf of the City of Boston to grant authority to acquire interests in property, which the temporary construction easements are, on behalf of the city for a municipal purpose. Part of our municipal purpose here is a public works project that is being done in partnership with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. So the vote request, as further detailed in the order of taking, identifies those specific sections.
Thank you. Sorry, Para. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Commission members. First of all, my name is Para Jossinger, City Engineer for the city, working in Public Works Department. Thank you so much for hearing our motion today. Just in way of background information, this bridge was built in 1898, so it has seen its better days, and it is in need of attention. So we are very excited to build a brand new bridge. It's going to be a sort of a signature bridge at $162 million. To build this bridge, as you can see in the slide on your screen here, hopefully the context of the bridge and its look mirrors and complements the second bridge. To build this bridge, we need 7 temporary easements, not permanent, not takings, from 4 separate property owners. With me today, I have Brian Valancourt, who is going to go through the specific details of the 7 temporary easements. And then subsequent to that, we have a small 2-minute video, which will show you the highlights of the bridge, if that is to the Commission's liking.
Para, I have one question.
Yes.
At what stage is the bidding process for this?
We are about 2 weeks or short sooner in advertising this project.
Okay, great.
So we are almost there. Having a project of this size with at $160 million with federal governments, we have to dot lots of I's and cross T's, so we are almost there.
And how much does the state highway department have to do with this?
A typical project of this nature has a cost sharing, 80% federal, 20% state. But because this project just ballooned so much, the city is participating in some costs. City is putting in $14 million plus or minus. So.
And the management is by the city, not by the state?
The project is advertised by the state on behalf of the city, but the city will play a very close partnership with the state because at the end of the day, the bridge will be belonging to the city. So we will work very closely over the next 4 years, plus or minus, to build this bridge.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions before we get into the video?
Oh, actually, do you want to see the easements or the new bridge video? Which is your preference?
The video might give some context.
Context, I think so. So if the, sorry, that's all right. It's a very short, quick video. It'll give you the. This bridge, which, now I'm sort of filling in time. The bridge is going to be one of the most multimodal bridges that have ever been built in the Commonwealth. It has dedicated bicycle lanes, expanded space for pedestrians. As you may know, the Freedom Trail goes over this bridge and the experience is not the best because of the metal grading, so we have taken much into consideration. We want this bridge to sort of emulate a city street that just happens to be on water or above water. So we want to increase the pedestrian experience. We will have bus rapid transit, a BRT lane, put on this bridge so that we can improve the transit times for all the buses that come into the city. So it is being touted as one of the most progressively designed bridges at a price. So hopefully we can bring it all home. But we need your assistance to secure these temporary easements.
And one more question, Power. Maybe this is one for Angela as we wait for the video to load. What further actions will the Public Facilities Commission be asked to take?
This is it. Sorry.
Is it? Okay.
Just one word we needed. We did the design so that we don't need any permanent takings, permanent easements. So it is just a temporary easement. So we went through great design challenges just to ensure that the right-of-way impacts are minimum. Okay, now I feel like.
I'll wait for that.
Yeah.
How are the temporary easements costs determined in terms of with outside appraisals done?
So
forth?
I'll have Brian explain this thing, but in a macro sense, since this project is 80% funded by the federal government, there are more rules and regulations which we need to abide by because there's so much scrutiny, Larry, about how this project is being done. But Brian will go through the exercise through which we had to get independent appraisals, not one, but two. Brian, if you could.
Yes. The project was carried out, the right-of-way acquisition support was carried out in compliance with both the FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 79 requirements. And those requirements include having an independent Massachusetts licensed appraiser perform the appraisals, and then those in turn are reviewed by a second independent Massachusetts licensed appraiser, and then they are further then submitted to the city, and the city's assessing department went through and reviewed them, the amounts of award of damages that was derived at, and then concurred with that and submitted that in a letter back to the city.
And at this point, all of the abutters have agreed to the amounts, or are any of the abutters disagreeing with the amounts and looking for additional? I know doing Boston Convention Center takings, it's, yes, you issue them a pro tanto payment, but sometimes they go to court and sue for more. But so everybody here out of the four property owners here, they've all agreed to these temporary payments.
Well, there's actually two abutters that would like to, that have verbally made it known they would like more compensation.
Okay.
Specifically, Angela, if you'd like me to get into the detail of this right now.
I think what would be very helpful for the commissioners, I know that we have the video ready to go, but what we have prepared today for the commissioners, and I would greatly appreciate this, Brian, is if you would walk the commissioners through each one of the temporary easements, because it gives the background and the context for compliance, not only with the PFC Enabling Act, but most importantly with Mass General Laws Chapter 79. And then I think at that point it'd be helpful, we can have the highlights for the video, and then we have the individual screenshots for the temporary easements. But for the record, the real necessity of why we're before the Public Facilities Commission is because they have the authority to either grant or deny an order of taking, but they need to understand the substance behind each one of these temporary easements and the due diligence efforts that have been identified in your project background memo. So I know that you're prepared to speak to that, Brian, and it won't take very commissioners to allow that process to happen.
Oh, I intended fully to have that process happen, but since they got the video up, do we not want to do it now? Because it took a while
You
to get that.
can, it's, sure.
It just took so much longer.
It did.
I don't want them to
It
have to
sure
go off of
did.
that.
Right.
So 2 minutes. So just before the screenshots change, that is the look of the current bridge. Okay, done in 1898, looks very much like the Northern Avenue Bridge. Not out of a coincidence, because the same engineer who had my job 100 years ago, a fellow named William Jackson, designed both the bridges. So if you can hit the go button. So the middle part of the bridge, as you can see, is slightly extended or fattened up. The VPS, which you see, are the inverse of the Zakem Bridge in the background, so there's architectural complementary. And yes, you do see trees on this bridge. Separate bicycle lanes away from the path of travel. Areas where people can actually take a break rather than just walking over the bridge. This approach is from the Charlestown side, with the Freedom Trail on your left-hand side. This is on the DCR lock side. So now, if we can get staff's assistance to get to the PowerPoint presentation, Brian will go and get to the specifics of each of these individual parcels which require the interaction with this commission. Brian, do you need this?
Thank you. So as Angela mentioned, the first part of the process is the due diligence that we undertook to comply with both FHWA Uniform Act requirements and Massachusetts General Law 79. We follow not only the law, but also the acquisition process and policy and rules. And part of that, there are some very specific items that must be undertaken as part of that. One is to treat individuals fairly, encourage acquisition by agreement, minimize litigation, and have at least 3 meaningful contacts with each of the individual property owners. And I'm proud to report that we have accomplished this with each of the property owners. We've met with them at least 3 times in person, and several of them quite more than that. As Para noted, there are a total of 7 temporary easements on 4 individual properties. And it's important to note that these properties are owned by institutional and commercial investors. They're very sophisticated, very business savvy, and they are seeking to maximize their return on investment. We prepared a detailed project and information easement packages, and these were sent to each of the individual property owners in March and April of this year. All correspondence with the property owners is sent by a certified mail, return receipt requested. We had appraisals and review appraisals conducted by, as I mentioned earlier, by Massachusetts licensed appraisers. That occurred in June and July. We had conducted individual owner site visits, in-person contacts, phone contacts, email contacts, however they preferred. That occurred in April, May, June, July, and we even had one more yesterday at the property owner's request. The offer of just compensation was prepared and submitted to the assessing department for their review and concurrence. That occurred in July, and then the offers were sent out to each of the individual 4 property owners, and the 30-day negotiation period commenced, and that ended on August 14th. We continued the conversations with the property owners, and I'll get into some of the specifics of that shortly when we review each of the individual parcels. There were no outright objections from owners, just routine questions. As I mentioned, there are 2 property owners who are seeking additional compensation, and the questions focus around access, construction staging, construction duration, noise, traffic, much of the routine nature. We've addressed all of the property owners' substantial issues, and with the current order of taking of power mentioned, there are no permanent easements. There are just 7 temporary easements, and these easements are for sidewalk construction, bridge wing wall modifications, and bridge access construction. The construction is currently planned to last 4 years. However, the duration of the easements before you were requesting for 5 years, recognizing that there is a contingency in case any issues are encountered during construction. The City of Boston and MassDOT has a proactive construction policy, and that is in regards to property owners to maintain public-private vehicle access to the maximum degree practicable, maintain pedestrian and bicycle access, and to work closely with the property owners when working in these easement areas. The resident engineer and the contractor will meet with the property owners ahead of time and work with them to schedule when some of the individual construction work, say in front of the doorways, is to occur in order to minimize the impacts upon the property owner. Next slide, please. So before us here is TE2 on the left and TE3 on the right. The property on the left is 226 Causeway Street. It's owned by Causeway Primary Trust. This easement, which is divided right in the middle, is approximately 10 feet deep and 25 feet wide. This structure right here is part of the actual bridge itself. There's a bridge wing wall that faces into this private way back here, and the contractor needs access to repair the joints in the cut stone blocks. They need to basically remortar it and then replace the bridge railing on top. And so it's currently planned that this activity will take about a month of cumulative construction time over the course of the 4-year construction duration. And we've worked closely with the property owners to make sure that the proposed work doesn't interfere with their driveway access into the buildings here. But this particular property owner, TE2, we met with them yesterday. They expressed that the amount of proposed compensation at $10,200 is low, and they believe it should be higher because they will be giving up 2 parking spaces for the duration of the construction that's planned there. Next slide, please, Melissa. This easement right here is for sidewalk and bridge access construction. The large rectangle on the right is for bridge access construction. And this small piece sliver right in through here, which is also part of TE4, is for sidewalk reconstruction up to the face of the building and right up to the entryway to a doorway right here. There's another small doorway right there. In total, TE4 is 2,698 square feet, and the amount of compensation for this is $60,000. It's anticipated that the reconstruction of this area for bridge access purposes, which will involve the demolition and then reconstruction of the stairway that extends down to the lower pavilion area here, that will take upwards of about 2 months of actual construction time. During the first part of the construction, this will be demolished and a temporary stairway, temporary portion of the bridge platform will be put in, and then when the western half of the bridge is reconstructed, They will once again close off this area and construct the new and final staircase. Next slide, please. This is the largest easement on the property, on the project, involving 5,052 square feet, and it's for property located at 44 Charles River Avenue. It's owned by Tutor Wharf Realty. They actually own into the river this parcel right here, and this is during low tide, but during high tide, the water actually comes up to the retaining wall located right along the edge of the Charles River Avenue. And this parcel is required for bridge access during construction. It's envisioned that in the early phases of construction, the contractor will need to relocate the utilities that are on the west side of the bridge onto the east side of the bridge, and this parcel plays a critical role in providing access for that work to occur, then staging during the demolition and then reconstruction of the eastern half of the bridge, and finally near the end of construction, the relocation of the utilities back to the western side. So for this particular parcel, the amount of just compensation offered at $210,400 is very high, but that's because this temporary easement is envisioned to be occupied for a significant portion of the time during the 4-year period.
If you don't mind me asking, how is the contractor access that parcel? Is it from the land side or the water side?
Land side.
Land side.
And Mass DOT actually, the Commonwealth actually owns another parcel out here that the contractor will be able to use, but this is a critical privately owned parcel. And then TE 10, 11, and 12. This is property that's owned in fee by the...
TE 13, just for the record.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. TE 13 is the last one. This property is owned in fee by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, and it's leased under a 99-year lease by Stall/Gateway Development 1 Corporation. We've coordinated both with MassDOT Real Estate and the developer on this. We've had numerous site meetings out there, and the extent of the work, as outlined in red here for TE 10, is sidewalk reconstruction. And once again, it's the property line extends out into what people perceive to be the sidewalk, the common area, but actually this red line is where the property line is. So it's so that the new sidewalk can be carried right to the front of the building face, right in through here. Next slide, please. And there's a state highway layout line that runs right through here. So we have TE 13 for this narrow strip that's only about a foot wide and encompasses about 5 square feet. And then TE 11 extends down to here. And once again, it's so the sidewalk work can extend right back to the face of the building. So it's a uniform appearance to the sidewalk. And that encompasses 95 square feet. So in total, this part, the 3 easements encompass 882 square feet for a total compensation amount of $35,000.
At this point, we turn the presentation to you, Commission members, to see if you have any questions, and we'll do our best to answer.
Thank you for your very thorough presentation. I have no questions. How about any commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question. So you mentioned there's a 30-day negotiation period that's ended, but there's still at least 2 property owners who would like to have an increase in their offers. How is that handled? Is there still opportunity to negotiate, or does that mean that there'll be potential litigation?
We have the opportunity to modify the offer to enhance the offer through an administrative settlement process, and that would be coordinated through the legal staff here and with Katie Klein, our real estate attorney. It's not that unusual for this to occur, but the gist of the concern for one of the property owners, it's 226, the Causeway Primary Trust, TE2, is that they believe that the amount of compensation at $10,200 doesn't reflect the loss of parking that will occur. They use that area for snow storage during the winter, and even though it's currently planned that the construction activity will only take a month. They're concerned that it may last longer than that. They're looking for additional compensation. The second one is Tutor Wharf at 44 Charles River Avenue. That's the Marriott Hotel. If you recall, the compensation amount offered for that is for $210,400 for construction that's envisioned to last over a good portion of the 4-year construction cycle. They're concerned about noise, light, construction activity nearby affecting their property and the rental of their rooms. That was recognized, those impacts were recognized in the appraisal and the appraisal review process, and we actually had an extensive series of phone calls and conference calls, both with the city, the design engineer, to break down the construction into very specific phases, to review it in detail, to have a very good understanding of the intensity and duration of construction that will be occurring on that temporary easement. And so we believe that the amount offered is a very viable and realistic amount of compensation.
If there is a modification in the offers, will it require you to come back before this commission, or? No?
Yes, I can take that part for the legal question. Yes, if there was a modification in the dollar amount, we would be coming back before the commissioners to seek authority for that. The city's Office of Budget Management has provided funding specifically for the dollar amounts that are before you. The legal review that's been performed internally by myself and by Patrick Cento, an attorney with the city's law department, and also with Catherine Klein from KP Law, who's a subconsultant to AECOM. The process under both the federal requirements and under state requirements have been met with an independent certified appraisal, a review appraisal, and then both of those documents being provided to the City of Boston's assessor's office for an independent review. So before the commission, we have the city assessor who has individually submitted a letter of acceptance of each of these dollar amounts. It's not uncommon to have property owners express a difference of opinion, but no property owner, to my knowledge, has come forward with an independent appraisal or anything that would refute the just compensation that's been documented by 2 certified appraisers and by the city's assessor's office. So as a legal matter, what I represent before the commission today is that these specific dollar amounts, TE2 at $10,200, does represent just compensation. Should the owner decide otherwise, that owner is by all means, just like any of the other owners, able to pursue any legal recourse that they seek. But the city's law department, specifically our corporation counsel, has approved as to form today the order of taking as written, as presented before you. And should there be any legal discussion that begins or complaints that are filed, the city's law department is prepared to address that. These matters I represent as legal counsel to the commission are complete and ready for a vote with the specific dollar amounts as noted, and I have taken into account the individual review and my legal work on this, that for example TE2, the compensation of $10,200 reflects an actual 5-year use of that property, where in fact the owner has been informed that the period of time is going to be significantly less than that, possibly somewhere in the realm of 7 to 30 days. Yet the owner is being compensated as if that property was being utilized during the project for an entire 5 years. That is the same as well for TE3 and TE4, and that's the same for TE8 and TE10, TE11, and TE13. And when I mean it's the same, the only property owner that's before us is TE8, the Tutor Wharf Hotel, that has a longer period of duration for that temporary construction easement, which is more akin to about a 4.5 to possibly 5-year period. So the reflection of the $210,400 is a just compensation as if that property would be used for 5 years from the date the order of taking is recorded.
Any other questions?
I want to say great explanation from all sides and so forth. I think it's a great project. It's long overdue for the city and so forth. And just more to follow up on the Tutor Wharf property, considering it's really mud flats and so forth that has no practical use to the company in terms of its title range and so forth. That is, I think, more than adequate compensation for access going through there and so forth. Other than that, put a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Well, Commission members, on behalf of Chief Osgood and the administration, our sincere thanks to all the assistants of this commission, your commission staff, a series of individuals from the assessing office, the law department, and your able staff, and we thank you humbly.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Angela for all of her work on getting this done so quickly for us as well.
We couldn't do it without Angela's
Thank you.
assistance.
For the record, vote number 1 is approved. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion
Thank
to
you.
adjourn?